Not your average tabletop. Woohoo!
Welcome to Not Your Average Tabletop. I'm Zach,
And I'm Pepper.
and today we're going to be giving our first impressions of Shadow Kingdoms of Valeria. And this is our first game set in the Valeria world.
Yeah.
I think there's definitely a lot of them at this point, and I don't really know really what makes each one different from
Yeah.
the other ones, but from my understanding at least,
The name makes them different.
the name does make them different because I think they all have the Miko's artwork like this one.
Yep.
This one was designed by Stan Kordonskiy, who we've started getting a lot of his
Yeah.
games. So I think that was the main reason I went in on this one. I think it was also like a miniature market like deal for some I don't know, sale that they had going on. So I thought, I've been interested in these because I believe most of them are kind of Euro-y games, and I'd liked a lot of Stan's games recently, so I thought, well, this is probably the one to kind of get into the
Yeah.
world and see how good this one is, to see if we maybe need to check out at least some of the other ones. In the comments below, if you've played some of the Valeria games, let us know which ones are your favorite. And yeah, we might have to look into those ones specifically a little bit more.
Yeah, yeah. I wasn't as interested
Okay.
in this. Just for some reason.
Miko's artwork doesn't really get you excited.
No, I mean it's great artwork. He always does a great job, but I don't know, I feel like it doesn't ever feel like something new then, because I've seen so many games with it, with the
That's
West Kingdom and the North Sea. And I think it's also because of that, because we got more and more of those games, and I'm just like, they feel very similar. So I feel like, there's just a new game with this artwork, even though it's a completely different designer.
Right.
It just feels like, here's going to be nothing too new or exciting. And also Stan, even though we played more and more games, and I'm like, they're pretty good and pretty approachable games. The first one that I remember, although the first one we did was Lockup, I believe, but the first one that I actually associated with his name was Rurik Dawn of Kiev, and that one is a bit more thinky for me, at least with the area control and all that, so it still feels like an intimidating designer to me, even though he's also has a lot of games that aren't that intimidating. But it's still kind of an intimidating designer when I hear that he's got his name on a game. So I wasn't as excited, but it was like the Miko as well kind of brings it to a little more approachable. So it's kind of the two sides there pulling this needle, and we did end up playing it, and it was a pretty approachable game. Say it about pretty much every single game that we review. Pretty approachable game. People just know how to design games that have a lot of depth but are still simple to play from turn to turn, which is very much needed. If a game doesn't have that, it's not going to get a good score from me, probably.
All right.
But yeah, this one...
And it's going to be hard to get to the table for just us in general.
Yeah,
I feel
very
like
hard. Yep.
Our group of people, if it's a game that has a difficult rule set that it's like grindy to even remember how to do turns and stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just like each turn just feels really difficult, and you got to remember this and remember that and remember that. Probably just not going to be one. Even if one of us, typically maybe me, likes the game, it's just like, I know that it was more of a grind for. I mean, it's probably a grind for me as well, but a grind for you guys that was not enjoyable. So then it's more work than game. This one is not that case. But yeah, I would agree. And Stan, all of his games that we do have are all very, very different. So at the same time, I'm like, I don't know what I'm getting here, because he doesn't have like just one thing.
Yeah, like a Shem Phillips, I mean, with Garfield games. They are a series of games, and they kind of have
use
a
the
theme
Miko's artwork.
a theme and kind of a few mechanisms that tie together each trilogy. So of course those are going to feel similar, but even still, they do all feel to... You could guess that is Shem Phillips' design or a Garfield game. And you actually did say that Dice Hospital, a Stan game, made you think of a Shem Phillips design, and I was like, that was pretty spot on. That's probably the best guess we could have made if we didn't know. And now he actually has the Miko artwork here, so Does this feel like a Shem Phillips game? That's the big question everyone came to get answered.
That's what they all were wondering, and I would actually say, yeah, especially compared to his other games that we have at least, I would say that this one is right there too, feeling like it could be in the Garfield Games lineup,
It
Shem
does.
Phillips style design. So I'm kind of curious if Stan likes Garfield games or if he kind of gets some of that. So obviously there's a lot of things going on here that I
Yeah.
have not seen actually
Yeah.
in a Garfield game, but
Yep.
it just feels like if it was, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
Because it has tracks, which a few of their recent games have had,
Yeah.
like especially like Paladins and stuff. That's the
Yeah.
main
A
one
lot
I
of-
think of.
A lot of tracks in the Garfield games, for sure.
But yeah, so this one you're kind of selecting from an action pool of some. Once you understand the actions, pretty simple actions.
Yeah, a few different kind of go buy some cards. A few are resource production. Is
Oh,
pretty much pretty simple action selection there. Yeah, you roll a bunch of dice and set them in these areas, and they have different values, which don't always matter to the actions, but
right.
sometimes when
Get a
buying those
discount.
cards, the actions. So I think it's the difference from 7, based on the pip, or different from
Difference
6.
of 6.
Different from 6 is going to be the discount that you get of coin when buying those different cards. So
Mhm.
I really like that it adds something, and you're not just picking a die from that spot to
Right.
take that action. It could actually benefit you as well.
Yeah.
Then you take those dice into your supply, and you'll then use those to battle different enemy cards that you'll gain throughout the game, and in that case, the color of the die has to match the colors required to defeat that
Mhm.
enemy, and then when you do defeat it, the value, the pips of the dice,
All the dice
start
that
to
you
matter.
used.
All the dice that you use, those do matter there, and that determines how many victory points you get from defeating that foe. So, a lot, everything in the dice gets used at one time or another.
Yes. It
which-
drives a lot of the whole game.
Yeah, so there's just a lot to think about. It's like, okay, this is a 6, so that's going to be good for defeating the monster, but it's not
Well,
going to
it's a
give
red 6 specifically
Yeah,
because you
red-
may need a color.
Yeah, red 6. It's like, that's great. That's what that needs. It's going to be a high value. That's going to get me more victory points, but it's not going to get me a discount when I want to get that card at that action.
And that's expensive.
That is expensive, and maybe I should take something else. Maybe I take the 3 red, and maybe I don't get as many victory points, but I save my coins. So there's a lot to think about with every die that you choose, but it's also not overwhelming.
Right. I would agree. It's very much approachable, but yeah, kind of with that, you're kind of attempting to get so many defeats is kind of what triggers the end game. So that's what you're trying to kind of race towards in a way. I mean, kind of when you are determining that combat, there one of the things that's being tracked is kind of a comparison track that I don't believe goes down at all during the game. I don't think there's anything to actually make it go down.
Oh, yeah, that's-
I wasn't sure at the beginning, but that will be set at some certain amount, so maybe 10. So then you'll actually compare the sum of your dice that you used in that battle to wherever that tracker is, and that will be what determines your points. So I
Yes,
do
the
like
lower
that,
one, yes.
where that also gives you that option of, in that case where you said the 6 or the 3, well, I already know that I'm using these dice to complete that. It's kind of contract fulfillment
Yeah.
when you're defeating the monsters, but you're like, I already have enough there that even if I do take that 3, because of where my other marker is, if I took the 6, it would get me 16 or whatever or something, and if I took the 3, it'll get me 13, and my tracker's at, 13, so
Yeah, so
I was going to get 13 either way, whether I took the 6 or whatever, so I
Yeah,
might as well take
yeah.
the discount. So it gives you
Yeah.
kind of a couple more things to think about, even though that might be a bad thing, because you want to bump that throughout the game. I think
Yeah.
it's very important to
Yeah.
get that bumped up so that
Yeah.
you're at worst, well, that's not an at worst. It's whatever's lower of the two. But that is a thing that you can utilize in your selection of dice, especially early on in the game when it's
Yeah.
a little bit lower.
Yeah.
You're like, well, I don't really need that high of dice because
Yeah.
even if I do 20 damage, it's still only going to be scoring
Yeah.
based off the
That's
8
true.
that it starts on. Or I don't remember where it starts, but whatever it starts on. It's like, well, I'm not gonna waste all these high
Yeah.
dice. I might as well get some discounts.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
that is an interesting, and then it kind of swaps sort of towards the end of the game. It's like, okay, now I really want to use like all high dice if I can get them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're kind of trying to build up a lot of your stuff, your bonus cards and stuff that you can buy
Yeah.
early on, and then kind of maybe move towards scoring a ton of points if you
Yeah.
can.
Yeah, and then every time I believe you do that, you get an upgrade to your player board,
Oh, yeah.
which can allow those tracks to go. I think it's got a slot here on the 14, which that would be the wall that you'd hit when gaining
Oh, yeah.
resources and gaining that whatever it is, that skill or whatever that is
Yeah, I don't
that
remember the
determines
term
the
for it,
value.
but,
So you can upgrade that, or you can upgrade the amount of resources you can hold of whatever those ones are called, those other blue ones. Just a few different upgrades that you can do. You can open more slots to hold dice, or more cards, because you can initially only hold 3 cards, which you also give you special abilities or endgame scoring or an immediate bonus, which they get more expensive as you buy more of the same type, which I thought that was also an interesting little detail. And then once you take those upgrades, you move them over. You're not done upgrading. Well, you are done upgrading, but you do place it over on a little map board, which will gain you victory points wherever you put it based on certain criteria of the monster you just defeated. So if it had red symbols or required red monsters, red dice, which you can change the colors, adjust the colors, so just what's printed on the monster that you defeated, the contract you fulfilled, you can get points for the different colors on there, or possibly the type of monster or the value. There's like, if you had 15 plus with your damage value, that could be 2 points there. And then also, as you fill those in on the board, there's, similar to Endeavor, Age of Sail, as you're claiming different places. If you've played that game, claiming different spots on the map, these spots between these, if you have both of them, you get that bonus in between, which is different resources different resources or dice or bump on that track. It's a lot of bonuses there.
It is.
It really feels great whenever you can defeat one of those cards, because you're getting closer to the end game. You're getting points from defeating them. You're getting an upgrade, and you're getting more points and possibly resources, and possibly triggering multiple in between bonuses. It's really rewarding.
It really is, because it could have just as easily not had this board at all, and you could have just taken every time you complete one, just take a token off to give you a bonus on the board. But it's not like it's not like, oh my gosh, this majorly changes the game. But it's just a nice little touch that just adds a little bit more rewarding feeling to the game.
Yeah, it's just fun. It's just like, and I get to do this. It's just great.
Yeah, I would agree. But yeah, I think after one play of this one, I'm probably coming in at around maybe a 7.5 to 7.75. I think it's this being kind of a race game. It's always a little bit more difficult for me, I think. It's just sometimes you don't get to enjoy what the game is giving you as much as like a game that just has, it's going to be 16 turns or something. When you're racing to get something, or other people are racing to end the game, you just may not be able to get to do everything you're hoping to do. And it's like, well, you might have to play differently, because it's like, well, they're going to end it, so even though I'd like to do something a little bit better, I better just take this instead, just so that I get something. Which is good too, but yeah, I think it's coming in at that. We'll see with more plays if that goes up or goes down. I don't think it'd go down too much for me, but I could see it going up a little bit. I think, though, it's probably going to sit right around there for me.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm right around there as well. I think I'm giving this an 8. I liked a lot of the things in it, but again, that was kind of my only negative, is the end game being triggered by defeating a certain amount, which feel like at a certain point you're just like, you have to complete as fast as possible. You try to, and feel like that does hurt it a little bit. Like, we didn't get a lot of those cards, which I could see getting a lot of those cards, but it just felt like he wanted to go and do other things first, which
Yeah.
that might not be the optimal strategy.
Yeah.
It was our first play, but
Yes.
I do wish that there was just a little more to do. Like I could just maybe fill out a little more of this board, get some more upgrades, and really feel like I built more.
Yeah, it's a tough thing because I'm like at the same time I'm like, I guess I don't know. I wouldn't want the game to go on too long though either, because it is actually it does feel pretty approachable. It might be. I'm trying to think. It might be one of his most approachable games.
Yeah,
Actually,
yeah.
once you know how to play it.
Yeah.
Just because a lot of it seems pretty simple.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if you. Maybe if you made it go on longer and longer, it would just feel too samey, and then it would just come down to kind of whoever keeps attacking the more and more monsters because you just keep getting a lot of points.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the game wouldn't really matter.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So that might be why.
But yeah, I didn't feel like I was much different than you in this game.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of get dice, cash them out, start over. Do it again.
Yep.
Do it again. So while it is very rewarding, very good, didn't feel like I personalized it that much.
Right.
But I mean, that's not a huge negative. Like I said, there's a lot of good things, and I enjoy most of it.
Yeah.
Just a couple nitpicks.
It would be. I think it would be interesting or nice if they did have just a variable player power for each of these. I mean, this board is variable.
Yeah.
It's not the same.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think maybe if these were just, if you had maybe a special power for each one, that just let you do something unique, that would maybe be nice. I guess I don't know if this has any expansions or anything, but I don't know.
Yeah. Which I guess we just had to go after those cards a little more.
Yeah. Then that's really what makes it variable. Yeah. I don't know how. I think I had a decent amount of them, but I don't know if you had quite as many.
I think I had 2 or 3.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, otherwise it's a solid game. I recommend checking it out, and that's why I would say I'm interested in maybe other ones in the series. Let me know if you've played all the Valeria games, how you would rank them, which ones are definitely worth checking out versus others, because it seems like hear about them all the time, but I don't remember which ones are the ones that people like, or I think I've heard some that people don't like as much too, so don't want to end up with those ones.
Yeah.
So check out our unboxing video to get a little better look at the components. It's a really, like I said, really great Miko artwork. It's a little bit different than his other stuff because it's kind of centered on monsters and stuff, which isn't really what we're used to anyway, because kind of the West Kingdom doesn't really have monsters, or even the North Sea and stuff.
Ferocious warriors.
Yes.
Oh yeah, and also the
oh boy, Pepper's gotta grind in his gears.
Comes with an insert, which is fine that you have to assemble this. But we stored all the components, other than like the boards that lay on top.
Right.
All the components in just like 3 of these compartments. All of this is empty, and I mean, if you're talking about wasted space in a game, and even the board doesn't take up the full square of it, so it did not have to be this Ticket to Ride size box. So if that bothers you, I know seems like it used to bother you more, all this wasted space. But
it probably does in this one. I think this could have actually. As much as now Garfield's getting away from it. This is not a Garfield game.
No.
So they did not ever, I don't believe.
As much as they're getting away from it, they should have.
Daily Magic. Daily Magic has done a Garfield, like when they did the West Kingdom trilogy and the North Sea initially, they had kind of the smaller square box.
Yes.
I think this one would have fit in that perfectly.
I think. Yeah, near perfect.
Near perfect. And obviously, you could adjust the main board a little bit to make that work.
Differently, yeah.
But otherwise, I think that would probably fit in that a little bit more. But otherwise, there's a lot of empty space in this one. So
we'll see. Maybe there's a ton of expansions to fill that up.
There might be. But otherwise, we hope to see you on the next one. And as always, don't forget to
keep on nibbling
on our content.